business that I'm involved with, we've started from scratch. The way in which you do what you do is perhaps more of a purpose than necessarily the thing that you are doing.
As a woman in today's world, do you find something different that the business leaders of today are dealing with, that there's so many women in leadership now?
Women as part of collective decision making has increased. So what are women leaders dealing with today is just being more aspirational and being more ambitious, and therefore having to toggle choices and decisions in a far more sophisticated way.
It's my pleasure to welcome Tara Singh Vachani to a table of her own. Tara is the Executive Chairperson of Antara Senior Care. She's also the Vice Chairperson at Max India and a trustee of the Max India Foundation. Lovely to have you with us today.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Busy with so many things right now. So
Yes.
Art, education, senior living, a new D2C brand. A lot happening at your end these days.
Yes, lots of it. I think I'd probably make that list in terms of prioritization slightly different, but longer as well. I think most of us have, lots of balls up in the air, and very grateful for that.
What do you enjoy doing the most? Setting up a new business or continuing the older legacy that you're part of, which is really about health and wellness?
Right. I think for me, I've been able to marry the two with a lot of joy, and a lot of sort of interesting experiences have come out of that. I think the legacy in my extent has been the Max brand that my father has been able to build. But technically speaking, the business that I'm involved with, we've started from scratch, which is Antara. And so I think having a brand that sits on values of seva bhav and excellence and credibility have been a huge stepping stone for me to take those values as a legacy more than maybe the hardware of a business forward. And so just being able to build something completely new over the 15 years basis the legacy of those values has been wonderful.
But somebody so young to focus on senior living is fairly radical, very, very interesting. And to my mind, it means that you perhaps discovered your purpose early in life. A lot of people discover it much later, but you've been very focused, very into what you chose as an area.
I think, also discovering purpose beyond a point can be slightly complicated. I think the way in which you do what you do is perhaps more of a purpose than necessarily the thing that you are doing. And so I've had the good fortune of discovering a sense of purpose in almost everything that I have done. But in Antara specifically, I think the purpose of creating something new, of impacting quality of life, of looking at a space that has been fairly untouched. I was able to discover purpose through that journey very, very deeply at an early age. And I think I've always been someone for whom age hasn't really been a boundary condition. And again, I think it's the ecosystem that's allowed one to flourish irrespective of age, irrespective somewhat of gender, and just build on experiences step by step to earn the right to keep doing what one does.
As a woman in today's world and at very senior leadership positions, do you find that the business leaders of today are dealing with, that there's so many women in leadership now and that the leadership styles now are changing?
I think there are not enough women in leadership. There are not enough women making end decisions. I think women as part of collective decision making has increased. But I think if you were to really look at women who take the last and final decision, I think there's a lot to be done there. And we've talked about it, and I think there's nothing really new and novel that can happen other than this just constantly, incrementally changing. And actually, a different lens to your question is also perhaps that till caregiving and that entire ecosystem doesn't change, I don't know if that sort of magnitude of shift will happen. So what are women leaders dealing with today is I think it's just being more aspirational and being more ambitious, and therefore having to toggle choices and decisions in a far more sophisticated way. I think, generations before us perhaps didn't even realize that wanting to have different identities as a woman was a choice.
And then the burden needs to be shared.
Absolutely. And so now that the choices are made more evident to women, the aspiration changes. And as the aspiration starts to get lived out, the burden of living that aspiration then feels more magnified. And so, very many wise women have said that, women can't have it all just like men can't have it all. And so you have to pick and choose what you're willing to have at what time and stage of your life, and then see if, your ecosystem can support that.
How does decision-making play out in the areas of your work? So say, you're looking at senior living and you're looking at care homes. Who are the decision makers? Is it still the man or the woman, or is there collective decision-making that happens? And you are now talking about a D2C healthcare brand as well. So decision-making around customer choices would be a very, very interesting marketing question for you these days.
I think for me to answer that, I'd like to step back a little bit and maybe just summarize what Antara does, because Antara is a holistic senior care player. The word healthcare as we know it today is not really what Antara does, because we are not traditional primary, secondary or tertiary healthcare operators. And my family did do that in the past. So I think that distinction is very important. We're a senior care brand. And we're a senior care brand that does three things, and each of them have different decision-making vantage points. So we do senior living, where we create residential communities for people over 55 to come in and buy and then live a lifestyle, knowing very well that it's an ecosystem that they can age in place. All of our services, everything that we do is to help facilitating aging with grace and joy and good health and a good quality of life. And they're the decision maker, the end user. And we've always given that space and respect to the end user to say, this is a lifestyle that you can afford to perhaps buy for yourself. And therefore, as an entry point, come and make this your life, and know that as you get older and your needs change, we can plug them in for you. Our assisted living vertical, which we launched in 2020, is care homes and care at home. There, almost 85 to 90% of the time, the decision maker is a family member or a next of kin. And primarily men and women together, because if the woman plays a caregiving role for the loved one, the elder loved one, often they have to make the decision to say, we're not able to manage at home anymore, or they themselves don't live in the same city, let alone the same home. And so the caregiver is usually the decision maker there. In our D2C vertical, which is actually a products ecosystem where we create products for people to age with ease and joy, we have 4 different conditions. And hopefully many more as we grow. The decision makers both. It's the caregiver saying, hey, my father's struggling with his knee, or my mother's not being able to go on her morning walk, and maybe this Antara Age Easy knee brace will help, so they will purchase it. Or it will be the end user to say, actually, I'm finding that, my gut is feeling a bit sensitive, so maybe the Age Easy gut health offering will work for me. And with the amount of digital savviness in this age group now, the decision maker in that purchase decision can very much be the senior themselves.
Digital savvy, how does that impact your product choices? Are the products that you're talking about in the D2C space largely digital?
So our Age Easy brand is products. So products that link to lung health, link to gut health, link to mobility and joint care and fall management. So they are products that are used at a day-to-day level. So from knee braces to walkers to wheelchairs, to nebulizers to BP monitors, etc. So those are entirely purchased on a digital platform. They're either on marketplaces or our websites. So the consumer is totally addressed through a digital platform. What we're also seeing is in our care home ecosystem, our assisted living as well as transition care ecosystem, more and more people are converting on the digital platform.
So you're talking about a digital watch that prevents falls at some point?
So that's part of our fall condition in AGZ.
Okay.
But what I'm now referring to in the care home space is as a marketing acquisition platform. We use the digital space to do that as well. So I think consumers in this age group are becoming incredibly savvy in terms of the knowledge of transacting in a digital world.
And that's also changed since COVID, because we started taking more responsibility of our healthcare choices, of our own bodies. And we moved a little bit away from purely healthcare thinking towards a little bit more around wellness. To say that, if you are well and you continue to be so, then those health episodes may not happen or could be transitioned much later on in life.
Right.
So there is a lot of knowledge that is happening right now in the ecosystem. There's also a lot of prosperity. People have the money, they have the motivation, they have the time. They want to make those choices.
Absolutely.
And we also keep talking about digital India, a 𝘚 India, and taking that responsibility, I think, becomes very critical. But that's a very large space, right? In terms of a customer base in India.
I think any way you slice or dice the demographics in this space, you will see how large this number is. But if we go with the highest number, there is 350 million people over 60 by 2050 in India.
My goodness.
And if you start applying percentages to this 350 of who are living urban versus rural, who has an income brackets, who are already spending on healthcare, who live alone, who live with families, how long life cycles are going to be. I think at every element, and I say this very often, that there is space for every product and service for the aging population in India. And we need, 10,000 companies like Antara doing different things in the different value chains, because not only is this a huge space that needs to be dealt with for the people who are aging, but like I've already insinuated, what it does to the caregiving ecosystem in India is going to open up a whole other Pandora's box. So the numbers are very, very large. And, our traditional typical healthcare are serving the entire population of India, from children to elders. The healthcare models in India are never going to be skewed towards preventative versus reactive because of, again, the sheer volumes of people who are going to need secondary, tertiary care. So it's going to, I believe, need specialized elder care players to look at quality of life, to look at how people are living, to give them a protected quality of life, let alone trying to enhance quality of life. So it's a very large space that everybody needs to wake up to, in my view.
No, indeed. It is a large space. It's much needed. And also the whole ecosystem at some point in time, I feel, is not really designed for access, for ease of use. It's largely a design problem. The way our cities are designed also needs to be thought through at some point in time on how we actually do these things.
Of course. Everything needs to be thought through. The wish list of what needs to happen is incredibly long.
Tell me the top 10 things.
Oh,
5 things.
For a player like me or for elder care in general?
Elder care in general and for a player like you.
I think first and foremost, policies and advocacy needs to happen for organizations like Antara and others in the elder care space to continue to want to be in this space. The resistance to entering this sector, which is why you don't see many players in it even now, though I think that's changed hugely in the last 24 months. If you look at investment that's come into the sector, you look at startups, you look at even legacy brands pivoting into this space, it's been a huge shift, but not enough. And that can only happen when you see policy and government backing the sector and the industry to get created, right? So policies around land, policies around building, policies around staffing, etc. So that's one big shift. Two is, I've said this before, is insurance waking up to elder care products, senior care products, to say caregiving needs to become part of insurance versus, again, just secondary or tertiary healthcare interventions. 3 is incentivizing the caregiving economy to actually feel pride in working as caregivers. Today, the truth is, if you look at nursing as one part of caregiving from a formal lens and another is attendants or caregivers, attendants and caregivers think of this as a C grade sector to be in. They all want to get into caregiving for quick money, earn, salaries for a year or two and then move on to the next thing because people don't treat them the way they should be treated and they're not paid what they should be paid. So I think caregiving respect, caregiving positioning, caregiving benefits needs to become better. And I think these are my top 3. Otherwise, then I'll get into very micro level wish list, but these are my top 3.
And there is so much more that you do in any case other than this because you're part of the Max India Foundation.
Right.
You do a lot of philanthropic work as well. And there are things that you talk about in terms of changing the education system, especially for early years.
Right. I mean, changing, I don't know, I'm a drop in the ocean. And I just stumbled upon the early education space because my older daughter at that time was 2 and, was slowly going to enter into the world of early education. And so everything that I studied about that space showed me all the deficits there, both, frankly, at a profit level as well as a not-for-profit level. So actually became partners with Sonia Phillips, who's a master educator and advocate for early education. We have 3 preschools in Delhi together. And while that's a really small bubble, we believe that we can impact, 200 families every year to expose them to how the early years should look like. And at the same time, we pivoted the foundation from being a healthcare operating foundation into becoming a grant-giving organization to institutions that were working deeply in the early education space. And the reason we pivoted to becoming an operating foundation versus grant-giving is because we found that there were such fantastic organizations that had been doing work in the education sector for so long that there was no reason to reinvent the wheel. And the grant giving just simplified our own cost structures and operations as a foundation. And it gave me insight and learning to partner with organizations to keep bettering my understanding of the social sector as well as the education sector overall. So that's a pivot I made, and it's been a really wonderful journey.
And the top 3 things that you want to change here as well?
I think one is how parents, again, you have to split it between the social sector and the lives that we live day to day. But I think one is just people's understanding of how important the early years are. And that, we all have aspirations for our children or where they're going to go to college or where they're going to work. But I think the ages 0 to 10 are so critical in a human being's life that the awareness that we have to build around the emotional resilience, security, safety, nurturing that children need in this age group is incredibly important. I think that would just be my first and my number one ask. Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here today, Tara. Tara, you're a change maker, a purpose-driven entrepreneur, and I really, really hope that you manage to change all the things that you're so very passionate about.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that.